When I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Donnie and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
Put my hat up.
I'm South Carolina, so I just.
gotta be you.
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Mars?
Oh, my heart,
Happy 20th anniversary.
my heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Johnny.
Gotta be me and dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's a
The doctor lived next door to the janitor, to the reverend, and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Donnie, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it for all the more.
letting His glory shine through. Dare to be you, dare to be me, dare to be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. First name's Donnie, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. All right. First up, Mr. Neil Dubo. How are you, Mr. Dabowski?
Mr. Glover, good to see you, Donnie. How are you?
Beautiful day in the neighborhood. We have a special guest joining us today, Olu Butterfly. Hello,
Hey.
Olu.
Greetings. How are you?
Olu Butterfly Woods.
It's such a good morning, and I want to say, first of all, thank you for having me on this show. Thank you for being all places at all times. I don't know how you do it, Donnie, and also for having the smoothest voice ever. And in these days and times, I don't know when I'll get a chance to like see people again. You just never know. So I just wanted to say that.
Flattery will get you everything. Let's put a shout out to Catalina Bird for all that she does.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So Neil is an attorney, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Neil,
Good morning, Olu.
Good morning.
so what's happening?
All right, I'm gonna try to do the quick and dirty summary because it's been so much over the last 3 years. Seriously, so I live in a West Baltimore cooperative, housing cooperative that I love, by the way. So I'm gonna get to that part about I love it, and my neighbors are great, but it's currently under very abusive, just in your face abusive management. And I feel like it's a metaphor for Baltimore, in general, like how things are done here. It's a little microcosm of that. So basically, right now, the people who call themselves in charge, first of all, they're supposed to be elected. It's a board that represents the co-op, right? So they were illegally evicting people, displacing long-term residents. This housing cooperative has been around since 1976, right? They are doing things like saying, you owe money, so we're not making repairs. They're tacking on charges illegally as well. So that's partly how people end up getting behind. They don't take partial payments and they put on these fines and fees. And then you get a late fee. Then they're like, now you owe for 2 months. And people, they're playing games. They are selling our property. They are selling off property without even notifying us, much less asking for our permission. It is not theirs to sell. They are, there's at least one staff that is just off the chains. And she is sending threatening text messages and using her access to people's information to do illegal things. And I'm gonna go ahead and say that because the last time I saw her and I brought it up, she said you can't prove it, which I know you did it and you know you did it, and it couldn't have been anybody else but you. So we could get into that in a second. And so I don't have any problems with that. The concept that they're kind of playing these malicious games and just not following any rules, right? And malicious proceedings. I'm trying to summarize everything here. There's been no audit since 2018. And I don't know if I should kind of take a couple steps back to say this is not an apartment, it's a housing cooperative, right? So that means that each person that lives here, it's at least 140 units, co-owns it. They are co-owners. They are not tenants. The people who I'm talking about do not own the property. So that's what's really important to understand. These are 140 people. A lot of them are elders. A lot of them they had pension type of jobs, but now they're retired and they're on fixed income. And it's really the last affordable housing in Reservoir Hill. So we are all co-owners. So none of this is correct. None of it is correct. And there's just been a lot of bullying. So part of my job has been to try to help people understand their rights and to activate around that, to know what's going on. So when there's no audit, right, then that means that your audit is your protection from people, stealing money or mismanaging money. And so not having had an audit in 5 years, and during that time period, property has been being sold. You can see the issues with that, right? So this place, when it's doing what it's supposed to, takes in a little over $1 million a year, right? Not that it costs money to run that many units. So it's not like you sitting on swole with the over $1 million. But if somebody's in the middle intercepting that, I have no idea what's going on. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but we just have no concept, no idea. And we're supposed to have an idea. There's supposed to be a report, an annual report, according to our bylaws, sent out telling us what's going on with the money, and nothing. So it's a whole list. I could tell you some days of our lives type of stuff, because for me, this all started when a woman jumped out of her car and threatened my children's father. And because he was double parked waiting for my children to get into the car. And this person identified herself as working in the front office. And I was very confused about how you could act the way that she was acting, very aggressive. And she said, if I told you how she said it and what she said, you would be like, what? Like, none of you all would be able to keep your job if you acted that way anywhere near your job, right? And there's cameras, there's audio and visual surveillance around the premises. So she just kind of wowed out. And I said, wait a minute, at first I was just kind of trying to keep the peace. But then when she said certain things that were threats, I said, wait a minute, that's different. So I wrote the report, I wrote it up and took it to the office. And since that day, I have been a target. My family has personally been on the front lines. This woman has called CPS on me 4 times. The last time was I asked for my heat to be fixed. And somehow that turned into a CPS call that I have children in the house that's cold, which wasn't true. As you know, this has been a very warm winter, but and the heat was fixed. She didn't know that it was fixed, but proceeded to threaten me and to call CPS. It's been a wild ride. I'm ready for it to be over. So I don't know. I just talked a whole lot. I don't know if I told I was I was hoping that one or more of my neighbors could join me today, because I could tell my story, but what I found out was that there are many people who were going through things. This is not just about me. This person has access to over 140 people's personal information, and also anybody in their household that's over 18, anybody that used to live here, and anybody that has applied to live here. So to me, this is a serious situation, right? And I also found out what they were doing to people. And they were doing things like, during the pandemic, there was third-party payments. People could apply to get assistance. They were refusing to take it. They were refusing to cooperate, to give the ledger and the W-9 so that they could receive the payment. Instead, they just wanted to evict the person. We have to ask ourselves why. Why is that? So they have cost the co-op, as far as I'm concerned, a whole lot of money, because anytime you evict somebody, you're never going to get that money back. They tried so they wouldn't take my housing charges for 6 months, and they tried to get rid of me. But luckily, I know the law. They tried to say I wasn't a member, but they didn't have any right to say that. And so I'm still here. I'm still living here. I'm not planning on going anywhere anytime soon. This is my neighborhood and all that good stuff.
For those who don't know, you have been an artist and have contributed to the city of Baltimore for, I've known you at least 20 years.
Yep.
You love this city.
I love this city.
You have performed all across the city.
Mm-hmm. And I'm currently doing things about art and community. Like this weekend, we just did a garden art party where it's just like it sounded. We had a DJ. Everybody from the kids to grandma was out. We taught people how to make smudge sticks, to forage for what we call weeds, are nature's way of giving you what you need when you need it. So if you got allergies, there's actually plants that grow everywhere that help you with allergies, for example. So we taught people how to make some dishes and some tea out of those plants. We made art. We made stepping stones, literally out of gems and shells and things like that people could put in their garden, but also to contribute to. We were at Strength to Love 2 in Sandtown, and it was a potluck. People were eating food that was good for them. And it even rained, which was actually wonderful. The weather, it felt so good. People danced in the rain. Other people, got inside the greenhouse and just kept talking, and the music kept playing, and we just had a really good time. So this is something that is very important. A lot of people know Sandtown nationally for like Freddie Gray, but it's a whole community. It's the whole neighborhood, and there's this beautiful big old community garden there, producing food, and that people can purchase directly, can come and volunteer at and get food. They contribute to the Maryland Food Bank, and people also don't know that you can use food benefits, if you get food benefits, to purchase fresh produce. So that's the kind of stuff that we're doing now. It was an open mic, just having a really good time. So absolutely, I love my city, and I right now my family is on the front lines of this situation that I realize is an extreme justice situation that's not just about me. So I could tell you my story. It's been crazy. So, but I think it's a much bigger story. So one of the most dramatic things that have happened was this person has been sending me text threats where they said that I should know better than to mess with people that has my information. They said it like that, has. And then they proceeded to list everything, all my information, my date of birth, my social security number, my mother's name. And recently they asked me to come bring in a fresh ID. So I brought in my passport. I didn't understand. I've been living there for a year and a half at that time when they asked me to. Why are you asking me to bring in fresh ID? So they reminded me that they had a copy of my passport. And some people know I'm a U.S. citizen, but I was born in Nigeria. So they said, I hope you have your green card, which I don't need a green card because I'm a U.S. citizen. But this person is just wow. And they said they were going to sell me and my children's information on the dark web. So why did I not go to anybody about this? The president of the board is, I don't know what their relationship is. I don't know if that's his niece or what, but there is nothing he is interested in doing about this person. They sent me a text threat before and I got no, they just were like, oh, you can't prove it. And that was that.
Oh, look,
And
you mind if I share something from the GoFundMe page?
sure.
A West Baltimore housing cooperative is under siege by abusive management and needs. I'm going to put your mic on mute for a second. And needs your help to secure legal representation. The leadership at Reservoir Hill Mutual Homes is suddenly evicting longtime residents, filing false allegations, fiscally operating without an audit or any transparency, and defaulting with creditors, doing improper repairs, contemptuous communication from the staff, and other malicious legal proceedings. While RHMH is illegally evicting people into a harsh rental environment, we have not been able to access any community tenant resources such as pro bono legal services or organizing assistance to defend ourselves because we are cooperative and not an apartment. Neil, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I got some questions. Oh, how long have you lived in the cooperative?
Since December 2020. So not
And
quite
this
3 years.
This person that you're referencing, is that an employee?
Exactly. Yes, she is an employee. She
And
is supposed
how
to
long-
serve. She's a
Right.
member, I should say. She's also a member.
How long has she been in that employee role?
She was, when I first moved here, she was the assistant property manager. She just handled repairs, and then she became, at some point, I can't remember what date, but all of this is in a timeline because I had to write it all out. She became the property manager at some point after that, like July of 2021.
And from your perspective, obviously you're living this experience. Would you say that the problems really started when this person elevated to the position of property manager?
It seems that's what's been interesting. I can talk about her because she's the one I interact with, but I have to say that the president, who was the president before, I don't know whether it's that he doesn't know what's happening. He honestly doesn't know, but he has mentioned inside of meetings that that's his pit bull. So he is complete. To me, she's doing her job. She would have been fired anywhere else, but somehow with all of these things that she's doing, the kind of emails that she's sending out, because they can see it, he can see this, she is doing his bidding. So I would say that some of the issues definitely came before her, but they've gotten sloppier and sloppier over time. So before it looked like they were trying to follow the law, right? There's certain laws. Like if somebody violates some part of the bylaws or rules, you have to send them a notice to cease and desist. You got 10 days to do it. You don't just evict. You don't just give a fine. There's a procedure you have to do. So originally it looked like they were doing that. And then they just put it all in the wind. They just doing anything they want to do, how they want to do it. So they just gotten, to me, just sloppier over time because they feel like they can get away with it.
And then just a quick follow-up question on that, and then I'll yield back to Donnie. Just so I do not handle landlord-tenant work, never have, know just enough to be dangerous. But obviously, cooperatives are slightly different than just regular HOAs or your general landlord-tenant type situation. But I do know that in order to evict somebody in Maryland, there is a very specific process that a landlord has to follow that includes multiple steps, that has to go through a court process. You can't just show up at somebody's door one day and say, hey, guess what? You haven't been paying your rent. You're out. It does not work that way. Do the same rules apply to cooperatives? And if not, how are they different?
So there's more things you need to do when you have a cooperative, because this is somebody who co-owns the property. So they're going to the wrong court to do what they're doing, right? Nobody has told them this except for me. I'm the first person, and my lawyer is the first person to tell them that they're not doing it correctly. I don't even think they know the law, honestly. The laws, a lot of laws have changed even since 2020, and I don't think they have any clue. So when I went to court with them, I won, which led to more retaliation, by the way, because I won, right? So then they sought to see, they had not been accepting my money for 6 months, and they were like, we need it all right this minute. And they did it through legal proceedings, and that's not correct. They should have done it. They should have sent me a ledger and then gave me the opportunity to pay it properly. So what they have to do to evict you is they have to actually call you to a hearing internally. And the violation has to be stated specifically, and you have to go to a meeting about it, and then you have to be given time to remedy the situation. They have never followed that procedure ever. And they did call me to a meeting, and I said that I didn't feel safe having a meeting in person with that particular property manager, and you could see why. And they said, you have to come in. That's what it is. And I said, what is the nature of this meeting? They said, you'll find out when you get there. None of this is correct. There's nothing legal about anything that they're doing. Nothing. They just used to running. I feel like they run it like a cell block. And the more I've gotten to know my neighbors, the more it makes me angry, because my neighbors are intelligent people. They are decent people. They are people who are, have other things to do besides defend themselves against this craziness. And so I'm like, just how did we get here? How did we get where these people are doing whatever they feel like doing and selling our property? This has been in operation since 1976. And I want to say how good a housing cooperative is. It is an excellent idea for the future of Baltimore. So if I don't say anything else, like, that's why it's important for this cooperative to function and to thrive and to come back out on top. So this is an opportunity for people to be invested in a neighborhood. They're not just tenants. So they're not just subject to a landlord saying, well, I should say there's different kind of housing cooperatives. This one is a non-stock one. So you don't own the property. What you do is you own a piece of the company, and then you pay at cost every month. You pay a percentage based on, how much space you're taking up, like if you have a 2 versus a 4 bedroom. And it just covers the cost of running the co-op, which includes cushion, extras, people's salary, upkeep, and more. Originally it included the mortgage, but this place is not under mortgage anymore. So so you just pay a very reasonable amount of money at cost every month. It's a beautiful thing. So for a very affordable amount, you get to kind of live the life a little bit of a homeowner, meaning there's some stability. It's not just that you're going to get put out. So that's an important thing, that this has anchored this community for a very long time, through the 80s, through the 90s. And I want you to think about what's going on in Baltimore during the 80s and the 90s, right? This is right by what used to be called Murder Mall, right? And they knocked it all down. They're about to build some townhouses there. So this is gentrification that we're having to survive right now. But we survived epidemics, right? This anchored the community. They used to do block parties, different programming for the community right out of this co-op. I say used to because since this current leadership, and to be fair, there was a pandemic, right? A lot of things subsided. But so this is it's been a source of stability. A lot of people who live here have lived here since the beginning. There's at least 5 legacy residents that saw this place from its beginning. So how did it start? The city owned the property, and I think they need to do this again. I think this is a great housing model. The city owned the property, and instead of just letting it go to developers, right? Because somehow our city is run by developers. And instead of acting like we're going to just open it up for people to buy, because we know a lot of people who need housing do not have the expertise to renovate a vacant. That's a lot of That's not regular. That's like, can you fix this hoopty? Like, it's not regular. It's requires a, you know, and the longer it's been vacant, the more it requires, right? So the city renovated the property, and then a company was formed. It actually was some assistance out of DC. They formed a company and got the subscribers. They filled the company bought the mortgage, right? Bought the property, and they the stock, you know, formed the company, and then they went and got all the originally it was more people. They've been selling off property. There was 100 and something units, and since that time they bought the alley in between, so they made that a garden, like a garden area. And so it's a beautiful thing. A lot of people have been living here. It has a great reputation, and I think that it's a good model for being able to. A lot of people forget those like middle class people. So when I say affordable housing, most people immediately go to like they think about like public housing, and which we need all the different things, right? But this group of people can easily be forgotten. So being able to live here makes it so that they can live like their housing cost doesn't take up their whole everything, and they can participate in the community, organizations. They can garden, they can renovate their own space because they know they don't have to just move. They're not up for lease next month or the month after or the year. You know, they can live here, and it's not easy to do collective governance. You know, your neighbor might make you mad. What do you do then? You know, but there's remedies within the governance, but these people are just not following any of it.
Olu, why aren't you afraid?
Thank you for asking that. I know that I am protected. I know I'm protected on this plane and others. I think that what people needed was for somebody to step up. We went knocking on doors. We went door to door, and people were like, "What? Really?" Or some people were like, I knew it. We took evidence, because this is not just because I don't like somebody. That's the thing. You know, it's not just because I'm trying to make a scandal or I don't like somebody. Here are the facts. It is a public record that this property has been sold. And here are the facts. So, and I'm under surveillance. And I should mention that the president is in security. He has security clearance. He's a former detective. I'm not going to say too much about him, but he's somebody who has some things going on, right? So I believe in my city. I believe in, this isn't about me. I think that's what's really important. I was trying to, if people want to fight, they're going to fight. I'm going to defend my own family. You know, the judge was I talked to a judge and they were like, why don't you just move? I said, that's a very privileged question, right? Why don't you just move? We're living in a city where 1 in 3 people are in danger of being evicted. It's a housing crisis right now. Like, I'm not making this up, right? So I'm just going to step out, and to live in the neighborhood I live now, you can see I moved here less than 3 years ago. I moved from a wonderful place, by the way. It costs more than here. But if I were to move back to that place, it's going to cost at least twice as much as I pay now, at the minimum. Maybe 3 times as much. That's how crazy things have gotten. And some of it is I don't have a choice. To put my family through moving, destabilization is not a choice for me. I'm gonna fight. They have underestimated. That's why I'm only coming here. Why has it been so long? Because I was trying to mind my business. You understand? I was just like, listen, during the pandemic, I was working so hard for people that I knew, for my family. I was running an organization with a lot of serving a lot of vulnerable people. We had to innovate everything about what we were doing. I had my head down working. And I didn't know why they had time to have their head up looking at me. Like, I'm a mother of 4. I have 4 children, I should mention. 4 children. So I'm busy. I didn't even have time. After she threatened me, I could have went and got a restraining order. I'm like, I literally don't have time to do this. This is crazy. So for a long time, I minded my business until they just kept going and going and going. And I made a promise to myself. If they do one more thing, Donnie, if they do one more thing, then we're going to have to go all the way. And that was all the way. Until they are removed, I will not be silent. I will not sit still.
Lou, I just want to jump in and say that you have been a soldier ever since I met you. I don't remember if anybody been in conflicts, it was me. You more the peaceful one, the peaceful Olu Butterfly, Olu Butterfly. And then, we get word that somebody is messing with Olu. They don't know the problem that they have. They don't know that your wings expand across the ocean. As you noted, you were born in Nigeria. They don't want the smoke. So what is your message to those people who should be coming out and standing beside you, who should be on this screen right now? Because let me tell you something, Olu. I'm from North Avenue, East and West. And fear, now, if you're from Nigeria, then you done seen Lagos. A lot of us in America, we've been in New York City, but we don't even know about Lagos. I'm just saying, what is the message to the people who should be standing with you right now? You out there fighting, and it just makes me think back to the many times that it was a Black woman who was leading the fight, whether it was Ida B. Wells talking about lynching, whether it was Harriet Tubman helping 70 people on her own, and then another 800 down by the Combahee River in South Carolina escaped the enslavement by savages, whether it was Fannie Lou Hamer, who says she's sick and tired of being sick and tired. Is always a Black woman that sparks the interest in the rest of us to jump up. I ain't letting you fight by yourself. So they already got problems.
Don't forget Rosa Parks.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, because that gives me strength just now, all the things that you said. I want to say that a lot of people are afraid, and I am not mad at them. The way that this place has bullied people. So even when they send the eviction, a lot of people didn't know they could fight it. They just moved out. They just folded. They wouldn't accept their third-party payments. Some people went to court about that. Other people just said, you know what? It is what it is. And I know that that's not specific to this place. That's my city. My city needs some, like, a pep talk. My city needs some examples of people doing things. They need some inspiration. So I'm not mad. I'm just hoping that I can inspire my very own neighbors and other people. To anytime you have to solve a problem, you actually gain a competency. At this point, I have helped actually many people because I had to learn about tenant housing. I had to learn a lot about laws. You understand? I've been in the books at this point, and I've been able to help other people because these landlords are out here playing games. They're out here organizing against the people. The people have to get organized and they have to get informed. And people win over money every time. Organized people wins over money every time. And I understand that. I have faith in that. I study history. I travel, and I know this. And I know everybody doesn't know this because if you've been getting messages from people who are trying to play games with you and playing your face, you wouldn't know this. But so I do have faith. I have faith that people will do the right things. People are standing up to defend themselves because we have to. At this point, you could move. You're like, you know what? They're tripping. I'm just going to move. You're going to run out of places to move. Like, this is not a game. So I feel like what I'm doing is related to everything in Baltimore. the people trying to play games, people trying to operate in an outdated mode. It's 2023. We're not going to stand for the things that we were standing for before, that, where you could kind of bully people or try to use language in a certain way. Sir, no, I read the laws. I'm clear,
Olu, Neil, I thought you had a question or a
Not so
comment.
much a question as a comment, which is, as I'm listening to Olu talk, and especially as somebody who practices law day in and day out, I think people who violate the law, people who take advantage of other people, do so based on the fact that most people are generally indifferent or apathetic. That I think is sort of the natural state of most people, and people who have evil intentions take advantage of that. And I think it says a lot about anybody who is willing to overcome that apathy or indifference at great personal or potential personal cost. And as a father of 2 kids myself, having 4 young kids, elevates it even more. It's not just you. There are other people who live in that community with you. I think it speaks to your bravery. And I think it is something that a lot of people wouldn't have the courage to do. So I commend you for it.
To be clear, this has cost me money. It has cost me money. It has been a part-time job, but like I said, housing destabilization is just not an option. And yes, it has been. I don't have a staff. So anything I'm doing is using time that either I'm trying to take care of my household or my children, or I'm supposed to be making money. So absolutely. Thank you for saying that.
Olu, clearly you need a lawyer. Clearly we're in a city with a long Black history when it comes to, if you think about it, we had more free Blacks here in Baltimore prior to the Civil War than any other state in the nation. Where are the lawyers? You've performed all over. Every damn lawyer has ever been to an event. They know you. Where are the lawyers?
Thank you for asking that. It actually took me a really long time. I feel like I do have I have a good lawyer right now. It took me a long time to find somebody who knew this particular area. As he said, he's a lawyer, and he knows a little bit about tenant and housing. But lawyers are particular to, they're like, this is my wheelhouse. So I was really lost as they were not taking my payments and saying that they were going to put me out. I really had to keep looking, and I was distressed, but I ended up finding somebody. And when I talked to them immediately, they were like, is this a non-stock? You paid, they knew exactly what I was talking about. I said, oh, thank you. So that's actually what we're doing right now, is we're raising money, because something like this, the actions and the injunctions to get them to stop selling our property, to open up the books, basically we're just asking them to follow the law. That is what what we're trying to do right now, is to get them. The laws are there. We have a legal pathway to rescue ourselves. We have a lawyer who has the expertise to do so. He knows that it's going to take time, though, and so to cover all the fees, the serving, the court costs, and his time. That's exactly what we're raising money for. We know exactly what we're going to do. We're clear. Time is ticking. The longer we wait, the more people are giving up, saying, hey, I don't know about this. I got to find somewhere else to live, or people, they're evicting people still. I don't know what their big plan is, why they're doing that, when it costs the co-op money to not work with people. We are members. You're not supposed to be attacking us. So we have a pathway. We have not that much time is the thing. So we've already raised publicly, with support from others, including, and some people inside, we've raised $2,200 out of $4,500. That's the estimate of what it's going to cost to do all the initial work to get them to follow the laws that are already there. We have laws within our co-op, and there's Maryland state laws, and to get them to follow those laws, that is all we're trying to do. Because we can vote these people out, but they have not held a legal vote. You understand? We can do this.
I got a suggestion, and I have a request. The suggestion is, and I see Terrence has chimed in. I don't know. I'm sure you know Terrence over at Terra Cafe, but say we were able to do a fundraiser, because $4,500 in the big scheme of things, it's not like you need $1 million. We should be able to raise money for a lawyer right away. But the request that I have for you, Olu, is for you to do some spoken word for us.
See, now, I was like, this is me coming out of retirement. I'm just joking. I'm working on a book more than I have been on the stage. So right now, I'm just going to say...
Shall I give you the stage?
Okay, I'm gonna do a little tiny something. Thank you. Crazy gives me strength. The heart of 10 men working hard to move out of a tenement. Be a man about the venom, slipped in the lemonade, sipped in the backyard of a genocide under the shade. Documented as a suicide, never tried to catch the murderer. Who ever heard of a woman standing alone with just now 30 were? Not the first to do it, but she not through her fluid, beautiful, brutal movements. A flower tearing you off limb by limb. The game loved you, now it loves you not. The game loved you, now it loves you not. Got knocked for your knots, your boat got rocked after 49s. Who's going to take care of the children? Olu Butterfly. Who be giggling after her first million? Olu Butterfly. Who slaying more than her share of villains? Olu Butterfly, Olu Butterfly, Olu Butterfly. What to do with this funky sweet potato? Enemies to my style, I make them lay low because I say so. Alright, ayo. It's hard to think of spring when in the dirty snow. It's hard to pay the rent when ain't no paid shows. But red beans and rice, best but cook slow. Put the flavor in the pot and then they call it soul ass. Who I think I am? I said check my afro. Better yet, look past my frayed clothes. Inspect my halo. This ain't no fake gold case. Closed. Who's gonna take care of the children? Olu Butterfly. Who keeps it sizzling? Olu Butterfly. Who's making a killing and bringing it back to the village? Olu Butterfly, Olu Butterfly, Olu Butterfly.
Come on.
That was great.
Y'all my two people in the audience. Y'all got clap. No, I'm joking. That I can hear, I should say.
We love you, Olu.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this time. I think I went over time, and I really appreciate you. And thank you, Michael Randolph, for saying that. And I feel, like I said, that this is really, I hope to set an example in Baltimore City. Baltimore Housing Cooperative is a great model for affordable housing. We have to figure something out. This is a great co-op here since 1976 with some great people. So I want to make sure that's understood so that in the future, when you Google Reservoir Hill Mutual Homes, you're not just going to see craziness. Like, this is a good place. And I look forward to it being that thriving place. Right now, it feels like there's a cloud over everything. I look forward to it being the place that it once was and will be.
You know, I just gotta say, Olu, again, once again, it is a black woman out front fighting for people, seemingly by herself, but you are not alone. You have tens of thousands of ancestors standing behind you. You are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. And I'll be there. I'm here, and I'll go wherever I need to be so that we can continue to fight. Plus, Cat Bird, I know Cat Bird with the shotty in the backdrop, you know, so.
Yes. Yes. I have some wonderful people supporting in this city and lending what they have to lend. I appreciate that so much.
Okay. Anytime.
Thank you so much.
Well, Neil.
Yes, sir.
Ooh.
Brave lady.
Yes, she is.
Fighting the good fight.
Soldier. You've seen fights before.
Yep.
That's why you became a lawyer, I imagine.
It is. Some of my most gratifying cases that I've ever had are cases that involved representing the little guy against the company, the landlord. There's nothing better, because the legal system, if it operates correctly and you have effective legal representation, is the great equalizer, right?
Mm-hmm. Neil, you study world news. Well, let me back up. What certainly you have some other things you wanted to talk about. You want to plug your business, what have you.
Sure. Well, so, and thanks for the business. Again, we're Dubo Law, personal injury and malpractice law firm. We're up in Timonium. Everything contingency fee based. Will represent anybody for any type of auto accident or personal injury claim. But really, I think the big story today that nobody's talking about is today is the first day of the trial in the Fox News Dominion voting machine lawsuit. I don't know whether you've looked at that at all or know anything about it. But after the 2020 election, Trump was running around talking about how the election was stolen. And one of the allegations that they made was that the Dominion voting machines were rigged, and saying that Dominion was there was no evidence at all to support it. And a lot of those claims made their way to Fox News, where some of their primetime hosts were making those same allegations, and Dominion told them to stop, and they didn't. And so Dominion filed a $1.6 billion, billion with a B, lawsuit against Fox News for defamation. And that case has gone through the entire process. Fox tried to get it dismissed. The judge denied that request. And today is the first day of what is going to be a multi-week trial. They're going to start jury selection, but there's a very real chance by the end of it that Fox News could have $1 billion judgment against them. And not just that, but during the course of the trial, I imagine that some of Fox News's on-air personalities are going to have to take the stand and be cross-examined by the Dominion attorneys. It's a big deal.
What else is happening behind the curtain?
What's that?
What else is happening in the news?
Still winding its way along on the other charges against Trump. Locally, I think we covered a lot of that ground last week with the end of the legislative session here in Maryland, and Governor Moore's first few months in office, which again I think we talked about being off to a really great start. I know that we're coming up in the next few months. I'm focused sort of more on the legal side of things. You got the issues with Clarence Thomas. I don't know whether people have been paying attention to that at all. It turns out that
seen old Clarence Tom ass.
What's that?
I've seen old Clarence Tom ass. Tom ass. Tom
ass. It turns out that Clarence Thomas is really, really quick to hold other people to rules and not quite as quick to hold himself accountable to those same rules. Who would have thunk? So he's gotten in some trouble for potential ethical violations. But again, my main focus, especially over the next couple of weeks, is going to be this Fox News lawsuit, because it's very, very unusual for a media company to be facing a defamation claim. There's normally a very high level of protection. Just like when you're a media person and you're talking about public figures or dealing with something of public interest, you have a lot of leeway in what you can say and cannot say, and you're protected from defamation claims. It's a very, very high bar.
Our freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech. There's the New York Times versus Sullivan Supreme Court case that said if you're talking about a public figure, right, it doesn't matter whether what you're saying is untrue. It doesn't even matter if you didn't research it. As long as you weren't acting with what we call actual malice, you're protected. You can say something that's false, and you can say, look, I should have looked. I never researched it. I just threw it out there. You can't, as long as you're talking about a public figure, that's how high the standard is.
Well, let me just throw this out there. What in the hell is going on with the banking system worldwide?
Which part?
Okay, there's a term called CBDC. CBDC. This is the central bank digital currency. Or let me be more specific. Did you know that not only there were two banks out on the West Coast that crashed, burned, then money came out of nowhere to save them. And then, Joe Biden comes on TV. Hey, it might have been the Treasury lady. Oh,
Janet Yellen.
Yeah, Janet. Banking is fine. Everything is okay. But Neil, fourth, it is a day that most people who are students of history know that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. This April the 4th, the guy who founded Cash App was killed, stabbed up. Not a damn word about it. Everybody gets Cash App. I get paid on Cash App. Give me my damn money. And money touches everybody. I could not imagine. I can't even see a world without Cash App. But now they're coming out with this thing called FedNow. The government's Cash App.
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria, their banks are closed. I just wanted to put it out there. I got a very anxious phone call this morning of a person who was very unsettled and is wondering what's going to happen when China comes knocking.
Yeah,
China,
they should.
I gotta say this to my defense. I wrote in 1997 that Hong Kong's reversion to China after 150 years of being under British rule, the British, the Queen of England, they own Hong Kong.
Well, it ain't the Queen anymore; it's the King now. But yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, they owned Hong Kong for 150 years, and this is how they got Hong Kong. They were sliding in opium.
Mm-hmm.
Neil, where does fentanyl come from?
Opium.
Fentanyl comes straight out of China.
Yep.
Fentanyl,
well, it's being smuggled through the southern border, right?
I'm saying they took Hong Kong with opium. Now China's coming back and taking back stuff with fentanyl.
Yeah, yes, but I want to circle back to the banking thing because I think you moved a couple steps past that.
I'm just saying, it's a lot of crazy stuff going on.
A lot of crazy stuff. My big issue is, and this actually goes back to the financial crisis we had in 2008, right? You circle back to that. We almost had a major economic collapse because people who we thought were the experts, right, made risky bets on a market they thought for sure on the housing market, and they just didn't. They never bothered to look at the trends. They just assumed, and people we thought knew what they were doing played Russian roulette with our money, right? And then it almost all came crashing down, and it needed the government to step in. Well, any rational, sane society would have looked at that and said, well, wow, we just dodged a major bullet. The entire economy collapsed. Maybe we shouldn't be going all in on risky propositions where we think we know the outcome, but nothing is certain.
Neil, I want to sell you this shirt. I want to sell you this shirt at a premium. I'm going to sell it to you for $1,200 right now. You can have it off my back for $1,200. This shirt, cufflinks in it. I'll throw in the tie. $1,200.
I was about to say I want the tie too. But look at the crypto.
And you can get the shirt for $30-$40.
We're talking about crypto banks going under, right? The mistake that was made during the housing crisis was made worse by what happened after. In other words, the reason we bailed out the the banks was because they were so quote unquote too big to fail, right? So what did we do after that? How do we fix the problem? We just merged the banks. So we took big banks and made them even bigger, right? And then over the next 5-10 years, you start to throw in cryptocurrency as completely uncertain, brand new thing. And everyone's like, hey, this is great. And we learned none of the lessons that were learned in 2008. And this takes me right back. You talked about the biggest problem. this idea of moral hazard, right? This idea that if somebody makes a bad business decision and the government bails them out, there is no incentive for them to make smart decisions going forward because they can take any risk they want. If it works, they're going to make a boatload of money. And if it doesn't, they know they have the safety net of government to bail them out. And it incentivizes bad, risky business decisions. And we're the ones who fit the bill.
What does this mean in the mortgage market?
Well, I mean, the interest rates have been going up for a while. The interest rates were artificially low, I think, for an extended period of time, both for primary purchases and refinances. And now they've been going up. Now they're kind of higher than they should be. In terms of the mortgage market, it's like anything else, right? I mean, assuming that people are being properly qualified when they're going through the purchasing process, it makes it that much harder to buy a home because what you're seeing overall is the devaluing of the US dollar. Our currency is losing value, and there's multiple reasons for it. I mean, that's an entire separate conversation, and I'm not an economist, but I do know that home ownership now is more difficult than it was, say, 5 years ago.
Have you, when you get an award for your clients, can you tell what they generally do with the money, particularly a large windfall, or what they should do? What they should do?
Right. So two-part answer to that question. I normally don't, in most situations, I don't pry or presume to inject myself into the process of how people spend their own money. When I'm dealing with somebody who's younger, who comes into a lot of money, or somebody who I think may need, somebody maybe who isn't used to having a lot of money, I will frequently go out of my way to connect them with a financial planner of some kind, or somebody who's able to help them navigate that process to ensure that, because most settlements, unless you're talking about sort of major medical malpractice cases, and you don't ever want those are devastatingly awful, right? Most settlements don't involve true life-changing money unless you are responsible and deliberate with how you invest it. And so what I try to do in those situations is to connect my clients with subject matter experts to help them take a settlement and actually turn it into life-changing money.
How does that work? Have you had success?
It's like that expression, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Some clients are resistant to it because they don't want to take this chunk of change and give it to somebody else to invest. And again, I can't make people do what I think they should do. People are going to make their own decisions. My role, I've been doing this long enough that I sort of become agnostic in a sense, meaning I will connect my clients to somebody I think can help them, but it's up to the client as to whether or not they take advantage of that opportunity. It is not for me to superimpose my opinion on grown-ups or adults who are responsible for their own decision-making. But I will connect them with people who I do think can help. It's just another value that I can add to people. And and the people who take advantage of it, the people who see the bigger picture, do really, really well in the long term.
Any final thoughts, Neil?
Just thank you for, as Olu was talking earlier, it reminded me of one of the most amazing things about you and this show, right? Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Bringing stories like hers, telling the stories that you do, putting people out there to tell other stories, puts things out in the open, right? It is much harder for people who take advantage of other people to do it when stories like that become public, and now there's a spotlight that shines on that. So just thank you for that. Stories like hers are important, but without a vehicle to get it out there, there's just fewer opportunities for her to tell her story. And that's the service you provide. And that's something that I think everybody who follows your show recognizes, and it shouldn't be understated.
So, Neil, I'm going to give you the final word today. I want you to plug your business. And when you're done, I want you to say, good morning, world.
I could do both of those things. Neil Dubofsky with Dubo Law. Again, medical malpractice and plaintiff's personal injury work, everything on a contingency fee basis. 443-275-6345. You call us with any questions. We'll be happy to answer them. Good morning, world.